Hey there, fellow deep divers.
Yeah.
Buckle up, because today we're going to plunge headfirst into the fascinating world of personality,
Oh, yeah.
specifically neuroticism.
Mm.
We're using an insightful article from Personality NFT as our guide.
Okay.
It's called Neuroticism Personality Trait. Facets, motivation, relationships, careers, and development.
That sounds like a good one.
Get ready to unpack this often misunderstood trait.
Yeah.
Like, what really is neuroticism?
Right.
Is it just about, like, being a worrywart?
Hmm.
Or is there more to it?
Yeah, there's definitely more to it.
How does it, like, impact our lives,
Mm.
relationships, and even our careers?
It's really fascinating how much our personalities shape our experiences, isn't it?
Totally.
And you're right. Neuroticism is often painted in like a negative light,
Yeah,
but there's so much more to it.
for sure.
It's not just about being a nervous Nelly, you know?
Right.
It's a core dimension of personality that influences how we perceive and interact with the world.
So it's not just about freaking out over spilled milk.
Not quite. You see, neuroticism is one of the big 5 personality traits,
Okay.
often remembered by the acronym OCEAN.
Gotcha.
Openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness,
Okay.
and of course, neuroticism.
Okay, I remember learning about the Big Five, like, back in college,
Mm-hmm.
but it's been a while.
Sure.
So, like, refresh my memory.
Okay.
What exactly does neuroticism encompass?
Think of it as the tendency to experience negative emotions more intensely and frequently.
Okay.
We're talking about feelings like sadness, anxiety, anger, and frustration.
Gotcha.
Everyone experiences these emotions, but people high in neuroticism tend to have their emotional volume turned up a notch. Imagine it like having a super sensitive smoke alarm.
Okay.
That goes off even if someone's like just making toast.
So it's like those smoke alarms that go off every time I try to cook.
Exactly.
So if someone scores high on neuroticism, does that mean, like, they're destined for a life of anxiety and misery?
Not at all.
Okay.
It's important to remember that neuroticism exists on a spectrum,
Right.
and there are pros and cons to both ends.
Okay.
High neuroticism can indeed make someone more susceptible to stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
But it can also be a wellspring of creativity, critical thinking, and drive.
Oh, interesting.
Think of like artists, entrepreneurs, and even some of the greatest leaders throughout history. Many of them likely scored high in neuroticism, and they channeled that intensity into their work.
That makes sense. I can see how that heightened awareness could be beneficial in certain situations. But what about those who score low on neuroticism?
Yeah.
Are they just, like, walking around with a permanent chill vibe,
Oh.
oblivious to the stresses of life?
Well, they might be a bit more laid back, that's for sure.
Okay, yeah.
Low neuroticism is often associated with emotional stability and resilience, which are fantastic qualities. But on the flip side, it can also lead to a lack of awareness of potential dangers.
Oh, interesting.
Or a tendency to be, like, overly optimistic,
Gotcha.
even in situations that call for caution.
So it sounds like there's a sweet spot, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Not so anxious that every little thing sends you into a spiral,
Right.
but not so chill that you, like, miss obvious red flags.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
This is really making me think about how neuroticism might play out differently in different people.
Yeah,
The article mentions that neuroticism has 6 distinct facets.
it does.
Could you, like, walk us through those?
Absolutely. It's crucial to understand these facets because they show us how neuroticism can manifest in various ways.
Okay.
First, we have anxiety, which is all about feeling nervous, worried, and fearful, often about things that haven't even happened yet.
Right.
Then there's anger,
Mm-hmm.
which encompasses those feelings of frustration, irritability, and hostility.
I can definitely see how those two would go hand in hand.
Right.
If you're constantly worrying, it seems like it would be easier to, like, get frustrated and angry.
It definitely can be.
What are the other 4 facets?
We also have depression, which is linked to feelings of sadness, hopelessness, and worthlessness.
Okay.
This facet can significantly impact someone's mood, motivation, and overall outlook on life.
Wow.
Then there's self-consciousness, which is all about being overly focused on yourself and your perceived flaws or shortcomings.
Right.
People high in this facet might constantly worry about what others think of them, leading to social anxiety and avoidance.
That one definitely hits close to home for me. I've always been a bit self-conscious,
Yeah.
especially in social situations. What about the last 2 facets?
The 5th facet is immoderation,
Okay.
which is characterized by a lack of self-control, particularly when it comes to things like food, alcohol, or spending.
Okay.
And finally, we have vulnerability, which involves being overly sensitive to criticism or rejection and having difficulty coping with stressful situations.
This breakdown of the 6 facets is really helpful.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to think about how these different aspects of neuroticism can impact our lives in so many ways.
Absolutely.
But let's get more specific.
Okay.
How does our level of neuroticism affect the way we, see the world?
That's where the concept of the neurotic lens comes in.
Okay.
If you score high in neuroticism, you might tend to see the world through a lens that magnifies threats and dangers, even if they're not actually that significant.
So it's like those funhouse mirrors that distort your reflection.
Exactly.
Everything seems bigger and scarier than it actually is.
Precisely. A minor inconvenience might feel like a major catastrophe.
Oh, wow.
And everyday situations can become sources of stress and anxiety.
I could see how that could be exhausting.
Yeah.
But how does this neurotic lens impact things like motivation? Does it mean that people high in neuroticism are just, less motivated overall?
Not necessarily. It's more about the type of motivation. Someone with high neuroticism might be incredibly driven, but their motivation often stems from a desire to, avoid negative outcomes.
So instead of being excited to chase a goal, they're more focused on, dodging potential pitfalls.
Precisely. Think of it like this. A student high in neuroticism might study diligently, not out of, a love of learning,
Right.
but out of a fear of failing.
Okay.
Their motivation is rooted in anxiety rather than genuine passion.
That makes sense. And I imagine this avoidance motivation can show up in other areas of life too, right?
Absolutely.
Like in relationships or careers?
Absolutely. Let's take relationships, for example.
Okay.
Someone high in neuroticism might be more prone to jealousy or possessiveness, constantly worrying about their partner leaving them.
Yeah.
Or they might avoid conflict altogether, bottling up their feelings for fear of, upsetting their partner.
So it's like they're walking on eggshells, always trying to prevent something bad from happening.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And this can create a self-fulfilling prophecy where their anxiety actually, pushes their partner away.
That's a bit of a bummer. But is it fair to say that people high in neuroticism are, doomed to have troubled relationships?
Not at all.
Okay.
While high neuroticism can certainly create challenges in relationships, it's not a recipe for disaster.
Okay.
The key is awareness.
Right.
And communication.
Gotcha.
If both partners understand the role that neuroticism plays in their dynamic, they can work together to build a strong and healthy relationship.
So it's all about understanding each other's needs and finding ways to, navigate those neurotic tendencies.
Exactly. And research actually suggests that couples where one partner is high in neuroticism can be incredibly successful.
Wow.
Especially if the other partner is highly empathetic and supportive.
That's reassuring. It seems like communication is crucial in any relationship, but especially when neuroticism is involved.
Right.
What about careers? Does our level of neuroticism impact the types of jobs we're drawn to or, how we perform in the workplace?
It definitely plays a role.
Okay.
Someone with high neuroticism might gravitate towards careers that offer stability and predictability, like, accounting or data analysis.
Right.
These jobs often involve clear-cut rules and procedures, which can be comforting to someone who, thrives on structure.
So they find solace in routine and knowing what to expect.
Precisely. On the other hand, someone with low neuroticism might be more drawn to, fast-paced, unpredictable environments.
Okay.
Like sales or entrepreneurship.
Gotcha.
They thrive on the challenge and excitement of the unknown.
It's interesting how our personality traits can, influence our career choices. But what about those stereotypes about certain professions being full of neurotic people?
Yeah.
Like writers, artists, or musicians?
Those stereotypes exist for a reason.
Okay.
Think about it. Many creative professions require intense focus, self-reflection, and a willingness to push boundaries.
Right.
These are qualities that often go hand in hand with high neuroticism.
So that tortured artist stereotype might actually have some truth to it.
It's possible. Remember, high neuroticism isn't inherently a bad thing. It's all about how those traits are, channeled.
Okay.
A writer's anxiety might fuel their creativity, pushing them to explore deeper themes and craft compelling stories.
Right.
An artist's self-consciousness might inspire them to create work that challenges societal norms.
It seems like neuroticism can be a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It can create challenges, but it can also be a source of incredible strength and inspiration.
Definitely.
But what about the bigger picture? How does neuroticism impact our overall, health and well-being?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
Research has shown a link between high neuroticism and an increased risk of mental and physical health issues,
Okay.
such as anxiety disorders, depression, heart disease,
Wow.
and even a shorter lifespan.
Wow. That's pretty sobering. So all that worrying really does take a toll.
It can, yes, but it's important to remember that correlation does not equal causation.
Right.
Having high neuroticism doesn't automatically mean you're, destined for a life of illness and misery.
Okay.
It just means you might need to be more proactive about managing your stress and taking care of your well-being.
So what are some, practical steps people can take to mitigate the potential negative effects of high neuroticism? Is it even possible to, change your personality?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
And the answer is, well, our personalities are, relatively stable.
Okay.
They aren't set in stone.
Interesting.
Think of it like a well-worn path in the woods.
Okay.
It's easier to follow the existing path.
Right.
But with, conscious effort, we can create new pathways.
So it's not about, erasing our neuroticism,
Right.
but about learning to kind of navigate it more effectively.
Exactly. One powerful tool is mindfulness. It's about paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations in the present moment without judgment.
Right.
This helps us create space between our emotions and our reactions,
Okay.
allowing us to respond to, challenges more skillfully.
I've heard a lot about mindfulness, but I'm still not quite sure I get it. How does it actually help with something like neuroticism?
Imagine you're, stuck in traffic.
Cool.
And you start feeling that, familiar surge of anxiety and frustration.
Yeah.
Mindfulness allows you to notice those feelings
Right.
without getting swept away by them.
Gotcha.
You can observe the tightness in your chest, the racing thoughts, the urge to honk the horn.
Right.
But instead of reacting impulsively, you can, take a deep breath, acknowledge those feelings,
Yeah.
and choose a calmer response.
So it's like hitting the pause button
Exactly.
before we let our emotions take over.
Yeah.
That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Are there other techniques that can help reduce neuroticism?
Absolutely. Therapy, especially cognitive behavioral therapy. CBT, yes.
Okay.
Can be incredibly effective. CBT helps identify and challenge those negative thought patterns that contribute to, anxiety, worry, and other neurotic tendencies.
Right.
It's like rewiring your brain to think more, positively and realistically.
So it's like giving your inner critic a makeover.
Exactly.
I like that. What about lifestyle changes? Can those make a difference?
You bet. Simple things like regular exercise,
Okay.
a healthy diet, quality sleep, and spending time in nature
Right.
can have a profound impact on our, emotional well-being.
Yeah.
When we take care of our physical health, we're also nurturing our, mental health.
It's all connected, right?
Yeah.
Mind, body, and spirit. It sounds like a holistic approach is key to managing neuroticism effectively.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that reducing neuroticism is a journey,
Right.
not a quick fix. It requires patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to, experiment with different strategies to find what works best for you.
This deep dive into neuroticism has been, incredibly eye-opening.
Yeah, it is a fascinating trait.
We've learned that it's a complex trait
Right.
with both challenges and strengths.
For sure.
And while high neuroticism can increase the risk of certain health issues, it doesn't define our destiny.
Definitely not.
With awareness and effort, we can learn to navigate our neuroticism
Right.
and live fulfilling, meaningful lives. What are some, key takeaways you'd like our listeners to remember?
I think the most important takeaway is this.
Okay.
Neuroticism is a normal part of the human experience.
Yeah.
Everyone falls somewhere on that spectrum,
Right.
and there's no right or wrong place to be. It's about understanding ourselves, embracing our quirks,
Yeah.
and developing the skills to, manage our emotions effectively.
And remembering that those neurotic tendencies can actually be superpowers in disguise, right?
Absolutely. That meticulous attention to detail, that drive to um, avoid mistakes,
Hmm.
that deep empathy and sensitivity, these qualities can be channeled into like incredible achievements,
Wow.
both personally and professionally.
So instead of trying to, erase our neuroticism, we can learn to harness it and use it to our advantage.
Precisely.
Awesome.
It's about recognizing that our personalities, with all their complexities, are, what make us unique and wonderful.
That's a beautiful message to end on. A huge thank you to Personality NFT for providing such a thought-provoking article as our guide.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of neuroticism. Remember, the journey of self-discovery is ongoing. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep embracing all the amazing facets of your personality. Until next time, happy diving.